what does wellness really mean? Wellness is the harmony and balance and synergistic movement of all of the major areas of our life. And I really want us all to meditate on how we can really gain a complete wellness in our life. Wellness is not just crystals and, yoni eggs, though I have both. It is deeper than that. It's deeper than that, especially for Black women. I want us to really meditate on what are the things that are life draining and get rid of those things. And what are the things that are life giving in our lives and feed those things, nourish those things. Welcome to Flourish in the Foreign, the award-winning podcast that celebrates, elevates, and affirms the voices and stories of Black women living and thriving abroad while exploring living abroad as a pathway to wellness. I'm your host, Christine Job, a Black American woman with Trinidadian roots, a business strategist and consultant from Atlanta, living and thriving in Valencia, Spain. Hey everyone, welcome to Flourish in the Foreign. I am the creator and host, Christine Job. Welcome to this bonus episode. For those of you who are new to the podcast, welcome. The podcast is currently on hiatus, which simply means there are no new interviews. But if you are new to the podcast, there are over 100 episodes for you to go and check out. If you are not new to the podcast, but you're true to this podcast, hello. Nice to have you back. The podcast is still on hiatus, but I'm dropping these bonus episodes. I just want to be clear. The podcast is not going anywhere. I'm just on a wellness break. That's what this is. So don't worry. The podcast will come back. I'm just living and enjoying. Okay. Don't worry. We have actually a long list of people who are waiting to record for this podcast. So don't worry about it. When I'm ready, we're going to get to it and I'll get it out to y'all. I hope you all have had a lovely summer. I have. It is very hot here in Spain. A lot of heat waves, not enough rain, but good vibes nonetheless. This summer, I have had the bandwidth to offer one-on-one Move Abroad with Intention coaching, and shout out to everyone who has taken me up on that. I've enjoyed working with y'all. It has been really interesting and very fun to help you take this next leap in your life. Now, if you are interested in working with me one-on-one, come close, come real close. This is your last opportunity for the foreseeable future. If you've listened to the podcast for a while, you know how serious I am. If you haven't, you may not know. So let me be clear. This offer is available until the very end of August. All you have to do is go to the website flourishintheforeign.com/MAI-course. That's Move Abroad with Intention, generally, MAI-course, to learn all about what the course is and what the one-on-one looks like. And then just shoot me an email if you want to engage. Now, you have to do that by the end of this month. So if you're on the fence, get off the fence and let's get to work, okay? Also this summer, I've had the immense pleasure of running Soft Life, Soft Business Summer Intensive. As some of you know, I am a business strategist, helping senior level Black women and women of color enter into entrepreneurship by helping them build out their own fully remote, location dependent consulting business where we get to leverage their talents and their expertise into viable and sustainable businesses that make them professionally fulfilled and financially abundant while they pursue location independent lives. Some of those lives are 100% abroad. right? And so I put on this 8-week summer intensive from June to August, and I am so proud of the cohort. They did the damn thing. They bet on themselves, they believed in themselves, they invested on themselves, and they got an amazing value. So shout out to them for being smart and capable. I had an amazing time, and so did they. And so I would love for you to listen to this testimonial about the summer intensive.
In pursuing my goal to move abroad no later than the summer of 2026, I wanted to establish multiple sources of income that are not location specific or dependent, and was incredibly motivated to join Soft Life, Soft Business Summer Intensive. I needed a strong start to launch my professional services that maximize my expertise in K-12 education. With the Summer Intensive and Christine's coaching, I was able to identify my why, align it to my financial wellness, and identify a business model that would work for me to reach my ultimate goal of a soft life, soft business abroad. The summer intensive was valuable in its reflection, exercises directly connected to the assignments that were intentionally aligned to developing and launching a business, with weekly coaching sessions from Christine and her depth of experience. As a result, I have a website that is clear about my expertise, how I can help address a specific and relevant challenge, and a client contracted for this academic year. I'm well on my way. I highly recommend this program if you are committed to starting a business that maximizes your expertise and network to allow for you to live a life on your terms and to thrive.
Yay! Thank you, thank you. That makes me feel so good inside. So happy. So if you're like, wait, Christine, I am a senior level professional. I want to have my own location dependent consultancy. How can I get started? How about this? Y'all know that I have the Build a Business Abroad guide, which you can purchase. I also am now offering a free, let me repeat it one more time, free video training. Yes, it's called From Marketable Skill to Consulting Business. I'm going to walk you through the process that I've walked my cohort through, that I walk clients through as we develop different products or services for them. So we go from marketable skill to a business or a product or things like that. If you're serious, sign up for my free training. It'll be automatically delivered to your inbox. I highly suggest grabbing a notebook and doing the live training. Do the things I tell you to do. Yeah. Or don't. But I think if you do the things I tell you to do, you will be far and away ahead of the game. And also stay tuned, because I will be offering something for those of you that are ready to take yourselves and your businesses seriously. I am. So stay tuned. Make sure you are on my email list. Make sure. I think that's about it. For everything I just discussed, just make sure you check out the description of this episode for all of the relevant links. Let's get started, shall we? On to the episode. Today's episode is Wellness Abroad Part 3. It's the third episode in this Wellness Abroad series. It's a compilation. If this is your first time listening to this episode, in the previous episodes, we've been featuring the responses from past podcast guests to this question. What is your definition of wellness? And how has that definition and practice of wellness evolved as you've lived abroad? And I'm bringing you these different perspectives because I just want you to know that wellness is so individualized, but also living abroad has affected so many people's wellness journeys in such a variety of ways. I just want to bring that to y'all because living abroad can be a pathway to wellness if done so intentionally. And we could talk more about that later. But without further ado, let's get into this compilation with these incredible women of Flourish in the Foreign. Season 1, Episode 7 features Jules of All Things Iceland. I asked Jules, what does wellness mean to her? And how has that definition and that practice been influenced by her living in Iceland?
Wellness to me encompasses the different aspects of my life, how I'm balancing them, When my job is impeding on the other parts of my life, I feel this imbalance. And if it's for too long, I start to question whether or not I am leading a life that is healthy for me. So I ended up getting a job that is an awesome position, but I was almost working myself into the ground. It was just unhealthy, and I was getting hormonal acne and stuff. It was just terrible. I was like, what's happening in my face? My body's just trying to send me signals, and I wasn't listening. And at one point, I was like, I'm going to quit. I just got to that point where I was like, I did too much. I'm going to quit. This is it. and when I told the company that I really just wanted to focus on things I was passionate about and I was going to leave, they were like, okay, wait, time out. Because like to them, this felt like it came out of nowhere. They're, how about you just work 50%? And I was, oh, that's a good idea. Thank you. I'm going to do that. It's just that. I think maybe that's another work culture thing too. I don't know if most companies in the US that I worked for, they wouldn't have been like, let's just figure this out together. Don't leave, right? I feel like they'd be like, all right, bye. Find somebody else. Somebody else. Rather than feeling like, let's just not put you in a position where it has to be this ridiculous. And we can, if you still are willing to bring value to the company and help us out, then we're willing to help you out in some ways too. That I think was really powerful for me to realize that I have options, and that has helped with my wellness, that I have more control over what happens to me than I initially thought. And I should exercise the rights to have those choices and think outside of the box sometimes in order to live a life that feels healthy to me.
Season 1, Episode 5, featured Adma in Toronto. Adma is a Black British woman of Ghanaian heritage who decided to move to Toronto, and our conversation was so great. We did have a very funny conversation about Canadian dating that did reference Drake, so if you haven't listened to that episode, make sure that you do.
So wellness for me has meant being very conscious of balancing having time to myself to recharge and also giving my energy to people. Another element of my wellness is I'm really big on exercise. I could probably work out every single day. I always say if I didn't love food so much, I could probably be a supermodel, but that's life. But I do some form of exercise most days of the week, I would say. It's actually really interesting when I talk about my journey here. I've always been into fitness, but moving here gave me confidence in ways that I didn't even expect. So when I first got here, I joined a soca dancehall spin class, which I absolutely loved. And a couple of months in, I randomly got an email saying, we're looking for new instructors for a new studio we're opening. And again, I told you I'm big on signs and big on fate. I thought that email is for me. I went on an audition interview and I became a spin instructor. Part of my being a well-rounded person is teaching spin 3 times a week. And I've added that into my routine. Again, something I would never have imagined doing back home, but moving abroad definitely does things to you that you wouldn't expect. So I definitely integrate fitness into my wellness. Another aspect of wellness for me here is financial, in that I actually feel like I save a lot more by not living in London. And the other week I was thinking, why do I feel like I have so much more money here? But it comes down to I don't have a car. I'm lucky enough to live a 7-minute walk from my office. A lot of the extra expenses that you spend in London, you don't realize that you're spending, I've been able to pocket here. Saving is really important. And actually, now more than ever, when I look at this situation with COVID, unfortunately at work, they've reduced me to 50% hours, 50% pay. A lot of people panicked when that happened. They were like, how are we going to pay next month's rent? Whereas for myself, I think I've managed to put myself in a situation where if this went on for another 6 months, I'll be okay. I make sure I save every month and I make sure I've got enough for a rainy day. And having the extra time in the week has actually given me the opportunity to work on my fitness, work on my nutrition, work on meditation and yoga and reading more and just doing the other elements of my life that I've maybe neglected because I've been so busy living on normal life. This is time for me to slow down and really just work on myself.
Season 1, Episode 8 features Patricia of the Enterprising Expat. Patricia is from Lesotho, raised in the UK, and has been a trailing spouse around the continent of Africa and the Middle East. And at the time, she was based in Virginia in the United States.
My definition of wellness encompasses mental health and physical health. Mental health is a big one. I am quite a sensitive person. I had some struggles with depression in my early 20s, and I was ashamed of that through my 20s, but now I'm not, and I can speak about it. So protecting my mental health is critical for me. I'm stronger in drawing lines about how I will and will not be treated, what you can and cannot say to me. But for me, it's pivotal that mental health is good, and then everything flows from that. And financial wellness is a huge factor because I've been poor. So don't tell me you can be poor and happy, because I've been poor and it's bloody hard. Let's just say mental health is it's the foundation, and then my body follows on top of that. And then it is financial wellness, because you have to be balanced in order to get to those money goals.
Season 1, Episode 11 features Amanda of the Black Expat.
I'm a counselor by training, right? So wellness is something that I think about quite a bit. I think that when it comes to wellness to me, you have to be balanced, right? So wellness isn't just in one area of your life. Like if you want true wellness, you're going to do a 360 view. So you're going to look at physically, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, whatever other aspects are important to you, and make sure that you've got some peace going on. Because the truth of the matter is, if you don't have peace in one area, it's going to be really hard to have peace in all areas. So once again, not to get biblical on folks, but it's basically like looking at your body. It says basically, if a part of your body is hurting, you need to go and take care of it so that the whole body can be whole. That's the same thing. So if you have mental peace, which is key and is almost foundational, but you don't have like relational, financial peace, it's going to be really stressful. I think that one of the beauty about being internationally focused is that sometimes you find when you go to a different environment, you completely reset. I'm having more conversations in the international space is looking at what are the support mechanisms if we're talking about mental health and mental wellness for those who are living abroad. Because just because you move somewhere doesn't mean you don't experience trauma. It doesn't mean that you don't experience grief. It doesn't mean you don't experience loss. It doesn't mean you don't experience pain. And so what are the ways that those who are living abroad can still get sort of those supports from a similar or a familiar cultural standpoint? Because if I'm living in Bangladesh or I'm living in Sri Lanka and there's a lot going on with me and I'm a Black woman or I'm a Black man and I'm like, let's say I'm American, I probably want to check in with a counselor who understands that framework, who understands what I'm looking at as far as Black identity, but also has sort of that international bent to it. And I think that one of the things that's really helpful is a lot of the Black groups that have come up in a lot of ways online have been sort of that way to support this idea of wellness, especially when you're thinking about being internationally based, because man, like there are things that come up and it really just helps to have someone who you can kind of talk through these challenges and talk through these issues and know where you're coming from, and can also tell you you're not crazy or tell you you are crazy and help you find the resources you need.
Season 1, Episode 4 features Adalia of Picky Girl Travels the World.
My definition of wellness is that a state of contentedness, whether you're talking about mental, physical, financial, like hey, I'm good. This is all good. It's all okay. Whatever this is, I'm not stressing about it. And living abroad was the last thing that freed me up completely from sort of like the rat race culture that exists in America, the consumerism and that sort of thing. For me, my wellness was impacted by living in a place where that was the focus. As I've moved abroad, I've created a life that is not centered on that is instead centered on experiences and exploring and pursuing the things that I enjoy. My quality of life is so much better. Somebody asked on Twitter, like, what are you afraid of? And I thought about it and I was like, I don't have that fear of anything. Oh, what if this happens or what if that? I don't have any of that. The absence of those things and that state of contentment, that for me is wellness. And I've been able to achieve that living abroad because it gave me the freedom to craft the life that I wanted, the life that fits me.
Season 1, episode 21 features Annabell, Jamaican woman based in Japan. And I asked Annabell about her definition of wellness. And if you listen to her episode, she has such a fascinating story of moving abroad through various experiences, studying abroad for her master's in architectural design, and working abroad. And you may not know, but Japan has a notorious bullying culture in the workplace in which Annabell also experienced. And so when I asked her what her definition of wellness was, it wasn't a typical response.
It's interesting that you say like Black women don't talk about it enough, because I'm one of those Black women who like that never even occurred to me as a concept. What's wellness? I guess everything I've said up until now would probably indicate this. I'm someone who just pushes myself to the point of burnout and then beyond burnout and then beyond that. In more recent years, I've started to realize how unsustainable it is. And maybe that was my first realization of my probably being unwell. I've tried to like go through what things that I was doing instinctively to kind of keep myself going. And I guess that would be my wellness. There's some things I eliminate completely, like pressure to participate in social events when I know that I don't have the money or I don't have the energy, where say it's a Sunday night and people want to go out drinking and I know I have responsibilities Monday morning. I have to work. I have to be at my best performance at work. Then I'm just going to say no. Something I learned over the years in Japan, and I didn't realize I was practicing it as a form of wellness, was to just say no. Like, don't feel forced to participate in these social gatherings. Eating out here is very expensive. You have to pay so much for food and drink, and you end up feeling like crap after. And I just had to learn to say no. And a second thing is how I eat. I used to eat very badly because student, always on the brink of running out of money. I was just rationing how much I could eat of my rice and stuff, like, and just not buying probably as much vegetables as my body needed and that kind of stuff. I really made the shift to like think about nutrient dense foods. I've been vegetarian and out of pescatarian for a long time, since the end of high school. So I'm health conscious. But then when you're a vegetarian and you're traveling and you're not willing to compromise, and then you're also on a budget, sometimes you just don't end up eating anything, or you end up eating a lot of bread and potatoes and stuff that's just not really giving you any nutrients. Nutrient dense foods, and putting the money out to buy vegetables, buy fruits, buy grains and oats and things like that that will nourish me. And I've seen a marked difference in my performance just by eating better. And then the third thing is exercise, something that I was just neglecting, just trying to work. Since the pandemic, working from home, the time that it spared me going to work to and from on the train, nearly 4 hours of my day recovered. I've been working out and I feel like a whole new person. It's unreal. I can't describe how much better I feel.
Season 1, episode 18 features Jamila, and I asked Jamila to describe her definition of wellness, especially as she had moved to Argentina to pursue a love of tango.
I think my personal definition of wellness is feeling content and satisfied about where you are and what you're doing every day. I say that with a caveat. Of course, you're going to have good and bad days. You can't run away from yourself, right? There's going to be good and bad days. But what I'm saying is that when you wake up, or for me, when I wake up here, I don't wish to be somewhere else. I'm happy in my life here. Even the days that I'm frustrated, even the days that I'm annoyed, I'm happy that I'm here for the most part, and I'm content. I think that wellness in this way is this feeling of being content in your life and knowing that you're doing the things that you want to do. I think that's really important. And I think that people should strive for that. If there's something that you are feeling like you're missing every day, or feeling that you really want or that you don't have, I think you should work towards that. And for me, it was this kind of work-life balance. I felt in the United States that the balance of my life was not where I wanted to be. I was working more than I was enjoying it. I wasn't able to travel as much. There were things I was always for feeling like I was missing out on, or feeling like I didn't have enough time for. And one of the main reasons why I'm here, it's the work-life balance. I feel my life is much more in balance. I have time to do all the things that I'm interested in. I can give as much time to tango as I want. I can give as much time to my work as I want. I can choose something else altogether, and I still have time for all of those things. I don't have to give up one thing to do another. I spend a lot of time in the dance, going out and dancing, just being social and dancing, working within. I have done some kind of a little side business that kind of encapsulates my love of tango as well. I'm able to do all of that and still support myself. And that is what I was looking for. That is the life that I was kind of trying to create for myself. And so I feel I'm very close to exactly how I imagined I wanted my life to be.
Season 1, episode 2 features Deanna, who at the time of recording was based in Hong Kong.
I think for me, I didn't know, or I didn't really appreciate that I could change, that my thoughts could change, my self-talk could change. I could be a different person. And then I took a class over the summer. It was taught by a friend of mine, but it was called How to Help a Hurting Friend. And it was literally a class about caring. I had already been in therapy for, I think, at least a year, because I had postpartum depression after my second pregnancy, but I wasn't really making progress in other areas. At least I didn't feel that way. But then I took this caring class, and I saw for the first time how I could change the way I spoke to other people. From there, I started meeting with an executive coach. But my first session with him, he asked me why I wanted to get into coaching, like why did I need coaching and what did I want to accomplish? And he just let me talk for, I think, maybe 10 minutes of just me talking, and he's taking notes. And then he's like, can I just reflect back to you what you said? And he was like, so what I gather from this is you don't think you're good at anything, like at all, not your job, not motherhood, nothing. You don't think you're good at anything. And I'm like, okay, maybe. I don't usually put that in my face, but sure, maybe that is how I feel about myself. And I just had never had anybody reflect that back to me to the point where I could actually grapple with it. But he would give me like homework assignments and things that I had to do in between our sessions. And he was like, look, do not call me for another session until you complete this assignment that I've given you. One of the assignments was I had to talk to my boss about where I was at and the kind of feedback that I need from her and what I need from her as my line manager. which super awkward conversation. And I also had to apologize to her for how I perceive her and how I put my bad history with other bosses onto her. And like, she doesn't know this about that I've done this, but I had to like apologize to her about it. And it was crazy and stupid and hard and so awkward, but it was so good for our relationship. It was crazy good. Even now I'm getting like a little bit emotional about thinking about it because like I didn't realize that my struggle with leadership was holding me back from becoming like a leader myself. And I also didn't realize that it was something that I actively needed to change. I just thought like, a healthy mistrust of all leadership is a good way to go about your life. Apparently that is not the case. And so like when I look at like self-care, I look at doing that self-reflection. I look at learning more about myself and how I respond to things, how I react to things. Even taking an hour away from my job each week to go to therapy, I do not feel guilty about that because if they want me to be a great employee, I need to have great mental health. And so I will do that. Or going to the doctor. If you want me to physically be able to go to work, I need to be able to go to the doctor. I am all about individualized mental health and wellness right now. That's a big thing for me.
Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying this episode of Flourish in the Foreign. And if you are, be sure to share this episode and of course support this podcast. You can do so by buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/flourishforeign and leaving me a nice note. I love when you guys leave me notes like that. It makes me feel so nice. You can also support this podcast by leaving a review of this podcast on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. Fun fact, Spotify now gives me the option to respond to your comments. So if you listen to this podcast on Spotify, you can leave comments, suggestions underneath each episode and I can respond to you, which is really cool. It's a little bit more interactive that way. So be sure to do that. Also, make sure that if working with me in the Move Abroad with Intention one-on-one coaching program is a priority for you, make sure that you get in contact, okay? Yes, do that. And if you're interested in starting your own business, check out my free training from marketable skill to business and get started today. All right, let's get back to this episode. Season 1, episode 20, features Jessie of the amazing brand Adalia. She is based in Strasbourg, France. And before that, she was living in Paris. And I asked Jessie about her definition and concept of wellness and how living in France had influenced that concept.
I would say there are lots of different aspects to this. Even going back to what I was speaking about earlier about how I feel I'm treated as a Black woman in France, I do feel I am treated better here than I am in the US. And I'm not talking about how I'm treated compared to others in France. I'm just saying, like, as an American woman, I recognize that I am treated better in France. And to me, that makes me feel free in a way versus how I felt in Southern Indiana. Being here mentally, I feel like I'm just free, like Black girl magic. I can do what I want. I'm able to just be, even from a natural hair standpoint. And I'm not talking about seeking approval from them, but it has been just really lovely for French people to be like, wow, why don't you wear your hair in an afro? It's so beautiful. Your natural hair is beautiful. Or if I'm ever just walking around with my hair out naturally, they're just like, oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. And they don't try to touch it. They're just like, that's beautiful. And I appreciate that. I'm just like, wow, thank you. That's just something I'm not used to hearing where I'm from. And so I feel wellness in the sense is where I feel like a more accepted person of society here, which means I don't have to worry about all the extra stuff I used to have to living in Indiana. I think that that is important with wellness is when you feel more comfortable, you're in a place where you're vibing and you're not having to get fixated on unhealthy thoughts. That is wellness. I would say in France, they really, really focus on your work is not your identity and you disconnect from work when you're not at work. and you take vacations. So as someone who's a small business owner, and I come from the ad world, I've been obsessed with work and I know it's not healthy. And I'm like, oh, I need to, change my ways. But even just my husband and his family, we would be laying on the beach and I'm like, I need to start writing down ideas that I have for something. They're like, no, stop. Just look at the water. And I'm like, okay, you have a point. Just look at the water. Just be here and look at the water. And then I'm like, okay, you're right. Stop trying to always find something to do or a way to entertain yourself and just be in the moment and enjoy who you're with and what you're doing. And also they're really about boundaries. I'm learning a lot about boundaries in this season of my life at the moment. And over here in France, I think it's illegal for your boss to email you after 8 p.m., which I used to have bosses emailing me back in the States at 2 a.m. in the morning. And I was like sitting in my bed working. They cannot email you after 8 p.m. here. And I was just like, wow, that is a boundary. And it's really just teaching me about how to just take more joy in the present and just live your life.
Season 1, episode 19, features Dr. Rachel Brown, who was based at the time in Barcelona. She has now moved on to Ghana. And I asked Rachel to explain her concept of wellness and how living outside of her home country and living abroad had affected her practice.
My definition or perception of wellness is balance. In one word, it would be balance. And then also just the ability to choose, the ability to have options. That to me is wellness. Stability, security, peace, and options. But in one word, it would be balance. So for me, wellness is being able to have everything that you need in order to flourish and succeed and feel at peace, to feel one, to feel whole, to feel happy. And not just happy, but to feel joy, like pure joy from a soul place and a soul perspective. To feel like you don't need anything else. That to me is wellness, whatever that might be and whatever might give you that feeling or that state. My wellness has looked like taking rest when I need it. It's yoga, it's meditation, it's good food, it's being able to pay my rent, it's the love and relationships that I have with those who are close to me. It's being able to go to the beach when I want. It's sunshine and heat. It's just all those things. Being around my people, being able to eat what I want, just be happy. That's my version of wellness.
Season 1, episode 13, features Khephra White, comedian, writer extraordinaire. Also, if you're in Madrid, check out her show, Dark Roast Comedy.
I never thought I would make it here, and I am here. My feeling is, what did I come here for? If not to do what I want, if not to write, if not to do stand-up, what would I do? Am I going to sit at home all night? No. I'm a performer. That's what I love. That's what I do. I found a way to do it. I went from doing stand-up to now I run a show. If you had told me 4 years ago that I would be a comedian with her own comedy show, I probably would have thought you were nuts. But then again, if you had told me 7 years ago that I would be living in Madrid and have my own apartment and be a writer and comedian, I would have been like, you're drunk, get out of my bar. Life is funny. And I figure if I wanted to sit around on my couch and do nothing after work, I could have done that in the United States. I crossed an ocean to live this life. I need to live it.
Season 1, episode 17, features Adalia, who's based in Australia. In her episode, we talked about her journey to moving abroad, which featured a round-the-world trip, her struggles to stay abroad in Australia, and her general thoughts of living life down under.
So I think that my definition of wellness has definitely evolved. And I feel like that's probably an evolution that's come with age, as well as the experience of having traveled and now living abroad. While wealth accumulation is still high on my priority list, that's become coupled with me being happy as well, not running myself in the ground, having this time to take those breaks for meditation and stretching during the day, taking walks. I walk a lot more, getting out in nature a lot more as well. It's spending more time writing and thinking. My money is not spent on material things. It's very much spent on experiences. Didn't have as many possessions for a good portion of about 3 years or so while I was traveling and then getting settled here in Australia. So I was able to live a more minimalist lifestyle, really interested in having a more balanced, aligned lifestyle. And if things are not in alignment with that, then it's not in my circle. And being more vocal about being my whole self. I had 3 different LinkedIn accounts because I didn't want people who were in the construction world or to know my design world, and people in the design world to know about my entrepreneurship, and then people in this realm. And I was like, oh my God, this is hectic. I've combined them all and said, hey, look, this is me. This is all of me. And if you don't like it, then you're welcome to no longer follow me. And people are actually, they're loving it. And for those who aren't, I guess they're not following along. I have no idea, but I'm not worried. I think wellness has been being more comfortable with self and more explicitly stating who I am to others. They can either be aligned with that or not. And wanting to be more happy in my career and finding my stride in my career and making sure that I don't kill myself in the process of doing that.
Season 1, episode 16, features Autumn Marie of Kigali Forward, based in Kigali, Rwanda.
Wellness, I think the biggest thing for me, especially as a city person, especially as a Chicago, New Yorker, and a go-go personality-wise, the biggest thing for me has been just slowing down. Marisha slowed me down tremendously because it was island vibes. And because it just wasn't, nightlife has not been the same in either place as what I'm accustomed to in New York. You can go out here in Rwanda and you can stay out until early morning. It is possible and you can do it. But there's obviously just not as many options as things to do. But also I'm coming from big cities, number one, and I'm a very active person. I'm always going to find something. I think that it has slowed me down a lot. I'm sitting on my balcony now talking to you. We have 3 balconies in my apartment. And I'm sitting on a balcony and listening to the birds and the trees. This is where I sit and do my press pitching and write media releases and things. It's such a different life. Like I have a hammock. I've had a hammock in both places that I like lay in the mornings when the sun is rising. It's such a different pace of life. And I really appreciate that. And I know that I needed that.
Season 1, episode 15, features Nubia of Black in Tulum. So I asked her what is her personal definition of wellness and how has her life abroad really influenced her practice of wellness.
What happens as a woman of color is we're surrounded by noise and we don't even know it. I mean, it's a lot of chaos around us. If you're a mom, you got your kids, mom, you got your job. Hey, I need this now. This, you got coworkers. Hey, girl, did you hear? You got your friends like, yeah, there's a lot of noise. There has to be a time when you can just release yourself from the noise by walking away and spending time to yourself. It might seem easier said than done. A lot of people now are understanding what it means to kind of sit in a space and they're losing their freaking minds. I'm bored. I can't believe I can't go out. People are feeling it, but you don't understand that this was the time that you needed to actually sit with yourself, to think about what it is that you're doing, to really consider all of the things that you have been thinking about, but maybe put off. Really looking at that relationship you're in, the job you're in, the whatever it is. If there needs to be a pivot, you need to take time out to remove yourself from the situation that you can make a better informed decision for yourself of whatever the next phase or step is for you. I'm a firm believer of silence, taking time to meditate. I'm not a huge journaler. However, when I have written my feelings down, it's a huge release. I am a firm believer of crying. I feel like that is a cleanse of a lot of emotions that sometimes we hold on to because as women of color, we're resilient and we're strong and we're the person that's like, forget it, I'll handle it, I'll do it. And not always feeling like there's the support to help us get through it. And it's okay to not be okay. Acknowledgement is so huge. Acknowledging your hurts, your pains, your triggers, your struggles, your thoughts, acknowledging them first, taking the time out to clear the noise. You can make some decisions on what to do with the things that you're finding out, then letting go, forgiving yourself, forgiving others, letting go of what no longer serves you. I don't give a crap how long that person or how much you invested in whatever. If it no longer serves you, it got to go. Understanding that it's okay to ask for help. Understanding that it's okay to share your story. Because when you share your story, you'll be so surprised on how many other people that your story resonates with. That's how you build community. Like-minded community is through sharing your story. So those are my things of wellness. Wellness to me at first in the States was getting my hair, my nails, and my toes done and all that stuff. And yes, those things can make you feel better for the time being that they're done, but they're not getting to the core of your being.
Season 1, episode 14, features Tanisha Townsend of Wine School Dropout podcast based in Paris. I asked Tanisha what her personal definition of wellness is and how has her time abroad in Paris really influenced that concept.
I don't think I necessarily had a good sense of wellness before. I think wellness was like, all right, every now and then I go to the spa with some friends and hang out at the spa and do that kind of thing. I think that was my idea of wellness. But now, seeing just how the French live, they really relax. I mean, sometimes I'm like, okay, we need a balance between the way they do it and the way Americans do it. The Americans work too hard and the French work too little. Y'all need to come in the middle and meet up. But now my sense of wellness, of really taking time off, of really stopping things and resting, taking care of myself, whether it's doing facials, whether it's just not working, whether it's taking a walk, getting a decent amount of sleep, sitting at a cafe and just having a coffee and watching the world go by.
So back in the early episodes of the podcast, sometimes I would give my wellness thoughts, which I think I'm going to bring back. I forgot I used to do this. But in season 1, episode 13, Khephra's episode, I had some wellness thoughts that I shared with all of you. And I'm going to let y'all hear about them now. And I think I am going to bring these back. I also truly believe that what this podcast is demonstrating is a theory that I have had for a while now. And that is the act of moving and living abroad for Black women, and I'll say even more particularly for Black American women, is an act of wellness. Truly. For Black American women, our identities, what we can do, who we should be, what we should aspire to has largely been dictated to us. Even women who are self-aware and self-directed, there is still a heavy blanket of oppression and societal expectation that I believe suffocates and clouds our ability to thrive. The act of going abroad is an intentional act to leave all the things that are familiar and to open yourself up to all of the incredible possibilities for life. It may sound ridiculous, but the act of having to be awesomely awake to every aspect of your life, every decision, minor, major, in everyday life, it really does change how you act and how you see yourself. All of a sudden, choices that were always just a given and automated at home are now firmly placed in your lap to decide what is best for you. And I think that choice, that radical decision, is complete wellness. It is the gateway of wellness. to begin to plant the seeds that truly cultivate a life well lived on your own terms. And as Black American women and as Black women across the diaspora, we are not monolithic. Our experiences are not monolithic. Our hopes and desires are not monolithic. And our lifestyle and aspirations and purpose in this world is just not monolithic. And so the experience of going abroad and having choice just be completely open to you to decide if it really is in resonance with you and in alignment with you, be it what you have for breakfast, what time you have breakfast, how you interact in community, the availability of healthcare and how you see yourself and how you take care of yourself, to cultural fit and societal norms that resonate with who you are deeply. I believe that this is a true act of wellness to be able to make these decisions about what is truly the best for you, for us as Black women. And this wellness is so much more than, I think, what is mainstream right now. It really refers to a financial, professional, mental, emotional, interpersonal, physical, all-encompassing wellness, because the choice really then becomes ours. And I'm not a person who believes that everyone should go abroad and stay abroad and your home country is absolute trash. That is not the whole point of this podcast or even really the basis of my philosophy. It's because that the opportunity to have choice does something to you. It changes how you see the world and how you see yourself. And in that change, you can go back home and contribute that to your community in a really powerful way. And so that is what Flourish in the Foreign truly is about, is an exploration of wellness, complete and whole wellness for and by Black women who are living abroad, and also the elevation and affirmation of their stories and how they see themselves living and thriving abroad. And like I always try to stress, because I think it's something that is vital, wellness. What does wellness really mean? Wellness is the harmony and balance and synergistic movement of all of the major areas of our life. And I really want us all to meditate on how we can really gain a complete wellness in our life. Wellness is not just crystals and, yoni eggs, though I have both. It is deeper than that. It's deeper than that, especially for Black women. I want us to really meditate on what are the things that are life draining and get rid of those things. And what are the things that are life giving in our lives and feed those things, nourish those things. Yes? All right. So take care of yourself. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Flourish in the Foreign. The podcast is currently on hiatus, but will be back. So if you or someone you know wants to be a guest on the podcast, be sure to go to the website, flourishintheforeign.com/contact, and fill out the contact form, okay? And if I think you're a good fit, I'll be in touch. And if you're interested in moving abroad with intention, be sure to go to the website flourishintheforeign.com/MAI-course. Check out the full curriculum of the Move Abroad with Intention course and get in touch if you want to work with me one-on-one. Again, it is a limited time. And if starting your own business is important to you, grab my free training, free 99. From marketable skill to business. Check it out, take some notes, and start acting. Start doing the things I ask you to do in the video, and you will be well on your way. Big thanks to Zachary Higgs, who produced the music of this here podcast. And remember, it's not about moving abroad. It's not about being abroad. It's about thriving abroad. It's about flourishing abroad. So go abroad and cultivate a life well lived. See you next time. Bye.